100 million people watched the League of Legends final in 2019.
It will very soon become the second most viewed competitive activity.
Yeah.
Competitive activity, not sport.
At the end of the day, you're giving 8 medals at the Asian Games to gamers.
There was a point where I was watching more esports than sports.
The esport that I like is FIFA. It's always been FIFA.
I mean, that was kind of what we did at sleepovers, was just like playing FIFA endlessly through the night. So definitely FIFA is the esport of choice.
Like my friends and I have somehow managed to, dial it down with FIFA, but we switched to playing Call of Duty on our cell phones.
My favorite esport, NBA 2K, man.
So to actually become a player who sustains your life of esports, that is really, really, really hard.
I think this one's going to bring out the worst in some of us.
Every say the
This
same
isn't
thing about
different for
esports.
Esports is
I
not
say
like
the
that.
same
No,
thing
esports
about
Esports is
it.
not like that.
The guys at the top level
Esports, the players do not put in the amount of
come
effort
on.
that other.
That is
just not
jack
true,
shit.
man.
That is jack shit.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another new episode of All About Sports, the podcast. I am your host Mazhar and I have all my co-hosts here. It's been really long, so it's good to see all of you here today. So firstly, Aniket,
Hi boys.
Rishabh Krishnan,
Hey everyone.
and Shubham Malu.
Hey guys.
So last week, Shubham and I thoroughly enjoyed the episode. We're extremely happy because United beat Crystal Palace as well, beat Arsenal as well, and now are 3 points within almost 3 points or so within the top four, getting there slowly but surely. Fred scored a belter, so things are looking good. And we also covered how the Ballon d'Or should be renamed the Manik Chand Ballon d'Or. For those non-Indians watching, just Google Manik Chand, then you'll understand. But this week, we're going to be talking about something that is highly controversial, supremely debatable. And that's what we love doing here, is debating these topics. And we're always at loggerheads for a lot of things. And I think this one's going to bring out the worst in some of us. It's going to be esports. And whether or not,
Sorry, it's going to bring out the worst in you. We are all very fine with this topic. And like, okay, chalega, yaar, no problem. It's just esports. They're just using sports, and do we really care? No, but Mazhar takes that like, how dare you attach sport when you're not?
I didn't say anything yet. The conversation
I know,
hasn't
but
even started. You are
I-
making assumptions
yes.
right now, Gui, and I don't
Am I
appreciate
right?
that.
Gui
Am
is
I right?
making up for the
Am I
United
right?
episode. Because both Gui and I missed the United episode. We're trying to make up for that. We're going on the offensive right from the start.
Yeah, if your team also knew how to do that, it would help. But anyway,
You win 2 games. Look at the arrogance, Gui. 2 games and bloody won. And
Guys,
bloody
we're
arrogant.
talking about esports today.
Sorry, I forgot.
so like Shubham said, we're going to be talking about esports. We're going to be talking about how the advent of esports, where it's going, the amount of money involved, what it's become, what it's due to become, the amount of interest it's been garnering, and people pursuing it as a professional career now. So that's what we're going to deep dive into. But before we talk about that, though, many people still aren't clear or don't understand what esports really is. So I'm going to get Krishnan to talk about that. So Krishnan, if you would just want to start about how esports came about and everything around it.
Absolutely, Maz. Yeah, so esports, as we sort of know, has been around for actually longer than I actually expected. I obviously, from us doing a little bit of reading, it actually started in 1972. Some Stanford University students competed against each other in a game called Space War. I've never heard of this game, but apparently it is one of the first esports tournaments. They played for a Rolling Stones, magazine subscription. Obviously over the years, things have sort of changed. In the 1980s, they would actually have video game tournaments with about like 10,000 attendees. This was again a game called Space Invaders Championship. Again, I have no idea what this game is. But I think the 90s is where it really, really started to boom and grow. Nintendo and Sega started getting involved. They are the ones who started hosting these larger, bigger professional gaming tournaments that started to actually pay out at kind of higher stakes. You'd have like 15,000, 15,000 or so as prize money in US dollars. So that's sort of where the sport's grown from. Now, going from there to where we are now, it's a completely different ball game. This is, relative to the only other sport I can think it's the only other amongst the sports we cover, the only sport that's maybe growing at a similar rate to esports is maybe the UFC. The UFC has grown exponentially since 2000. But other than that, there are few sports that have grown as sharply as this sport. For context, they currently have about 26.6 million monthly viewers of esports just in the US. And whereas, if you compare that to say something like an NFL game, right? For any NFL game in the US, each game has about 17.1 million viewers. So not surprisingly, NFL is still significantly, maybe more highly viewed, but it's getting pretty close. So the amount of viewership that, maybe esports as a whole gets, in a month as a whole is probably pretty comparable to like one or two NFL games. It's pretty interesting. There's a massive uptick in the amount of year-over-year growth. The funding in the sport grew in 2018 by 837% from the funding that was received in 2017. So I think, as we all know, it's growing at like a staggering rate. It's actually feasible to be a gamer and actually that be your full-time job. Now, again, the barrier for entry is super, super low. So a bunch of people can be in. So you really have to be right at the top of your game to be, to make this like your full-time profession and get paid out. But Mazhar, I don't think there's any denying how much this has grown. It's just unbelievable how much it's grown. Growing primarily in Asia, North America, and Europe. Actually, Asia Pacific accounts for about more than 50% of global esports viewership as of like 2019. And it doesn't seem to be stopping. But it's obviously quite a force to reckon with. And I'm sure we all have a little bit of exposure to esports. Even if we don't play it, we definitely know people who are keen on it, watch it, enjoy it.
So, Krishnan, I like what all you said. It makes a lot of sense. Everything what you said is just factual there. My only question with this, and I actually heard an interesting take from someone who spoke to us from M&M Gaming, which is an esports team, Calvin Chung, the founder of that. He mentioned that if you directly translate electronic gaming or esports, as the term has come about, in Chinese, it doesn't translate as esports. It translates as e-gaming. And the term has been coined, according to me, as a marketing sort of gimmick and a way to push money into games, into gaming. So I think it's a smart play by marketers, because when you have sports involved in anything, straight away you can imagine how much the valuations go up. Shubham, I'm sure you definitely will agree with that. Now, before I come to you with that, Shubham, and you, Gui, just wanted to add one more thing about esports. And this is for, again, our viewers. Esports is not only games that are played, which are sporting games. So it's not only your FIFA, your Madden, or your tennis games, Virtua Tennis, and all of these types of games, or NBA 2K. They're also League of Legends, Dota 2. Basically, any game that is played at a competitive level and involves teams are considered esports. So even Counter-Strike Go and Counter-Strike, all the versions that they play are all considered esports as well.
And
so
just
don't go ahead.
No, Madhav, just quickly to your point, actually, those are the two sports, like you said, League of Legends
Those
and
are the
Dota 2,
biggest
in terms
ones.
of viewership, and prize money, are the two biggest sports. It's not really the FIFAs and NBA 2K that are really at the same level as Dota 2 and League of Legends.
So this is just for those viewers who are thinking that it's only about FIFA or the sporting games. It's not. Esports is basically any game that is played at a professional and a competitive level that drags in money. And like Krishnan rightly said, League of Legends and Dota 2 are the big money grab games in the esports world. Shubham, let's get into it. What's your take on esports and if you want to add anything else in terms of the revenue models.
Yeah, so in fact, what Krishnan said was very interesting. He touched upon a lot of things. So, like how you, Mazhar, basically you mentioned about sports being a big marketing activity. Maybe that's the case, maybe that's not the case. But the fact is that the fan growth has been remarkable since 2016. In 2016, the global fans were around 270 million, and 2020 that's 495 million. So it's not completely double, but it's almost there. In terms of viewers in the United States, by 2023, esports will be the second most viewed sports, so as to say, only after the NFL. It will have around 84 million viewers, while the NFL has 141 million viewers. And esports will be higher than MLB with 79 million, NBA with 63 million, and MLS with 16 million. So it just goes to show like the sort of popularity it's gaining. And also by 2023, esports revenue could be $2.1 billion as compared to 694 million in 2017 with the CAGR of around 18.6%. So it just goes on to show that there are a lot of people interested. It's gaining momentum. And like I think how Krishnan mentioned, maybe it was you, Mazhar, that Asia, Europe, and North America are the key markets. But like the interesting thing about this is it really a sport, or is it just games that are being showcased and perhaps marketed as sport? I personally would like. I come from the school of thought that I don't think it's a sport. I think of it as a game. Because my definition of sport now, I don't know, like maybe it's a little more old school. My definition of sport is when there's more physical activity involved. Like I believe it has to be more physical activity involved and not just like mental and hand and what do you say, hand-eye coordination. So I don't really think of it as a sport. I just think of it as a game, and the games have been taken over by some sporting companies, sport organizations. They have been presented in a way which have become big ticket events, and they bring that entertainment factor which other sports do bring in. But I still would strongly believe that it's not a sport, it's a game.
I love what Shubham, firstly, what you said, because that gives me a perfect question to ask Gui so that he can start off talking about it as well. Gui, is chess a game or a sport?
Okay, the definition is hazy, and it's not something I'd like to touch because there's been a lot of conversation around.
Gui, this is the platform. This is the platform.
It's okay. Like I don't mind. Like I enjoy the game. All right, if that's what you're looking for, right?
My question is chess a sport or not?
But what about the counter? Is shooting a sport or a game?
No, Krishna, I was going to come to the counters. I was going to come to the counters. It's okay. Like my point being, like I know a lot of people are going to go with that definition, right? That there has to be a certain extent of physical activity involved. But what is the defining factor? Like how much of it? And again, I'm doing this for the sake of argument, because from the position, I'll tell you my honest position. I honestly don't care about what it's called because I thoroughly enjoy both of them. Like I enjoy the esports aspect also, and I think there was a point where I was watching more esports than sports. Like that's how much. Okay, I was unemployed, but that's not the point. The point was I was enjoying it because of the entertainment value. All right, maybe not because of the amount of skill. I couldn't recognize how much skill was required because I'd never done it before, as opposed to playing sports, right? So now you know it. When you're playing sports, you know what it takes to play someone who's bowling at 100 miles per hour. Okay, never have I faced a bowler who's bowled 100 miles an hour. Okay, let's be honest. But yes, now that's something about esports where who is going to define how much physical activity is required? For example, Krishnan said shooting. Okay, I was going to go with golf, and golf has a lot of physical activity involved, but also has so much skill in terms of reading the wind, XYZ number of things. All right, reading the wind gradient, which is essentially not something you are going to cope up with your bodies. If football, cricket, everything has strategy involved, so it's a mix of both, right? One is going to have now it's which end of the spectrum are you at, right? One could be like much more physical with not as much of mental strategy required. The second one could be on the other end of the spectrum, right, where you need extreme amounts of mental
Hey,
strategy and
Gui,
very
this is
little.
not the conversation, but the conversation is chess a game or not? Is it a sport or not? That is the question. Golf is not the question because
But
there's
the point-
no physical activity involved in chess. It's moving coins, and that's not really physical activity.
Shooting has you pulling one trigger.
No, Gui, what is wrong with you? There's so much more than that. You try shooting a rifle, there's so much strength involved, there's a technique involved. How can you call that?
So
How
there's a
can you
technique
not call
involved
that
in
a-
this as well. No, Mas, there is technique
What is the
involved in
technique? What is the physical technique in chess?
No, not in chess. But I'm saying in esports. No, firstly, in esports there is a technical. There's definitely a lot of quick twitch. There's a lot of. We're talking about esports, right? You're using chess as a common
if-
example
if-
for
like-
esports.
If you're saying something
Krishnan,
like
you're
if
not-
esports, just because you have to be like fast on the controllers, if esports is because of that's called having some physical activity and that is being labeled as a sport, then tomorrow someone will come up with writing as a sport. Yeah, whoever writes the most words in 60
Exactly.
seconds, that will become a sport. So that doesn't make any sense. No, when you talk about sports, like take some of the sports that we discuss on this podcast. You have football, you have F1, you have tennis, you have cricket. All these sports, you start at a very early age, at the age of 4 or 5. It's like school. You go through an entire process of schooling where you learn, you become a player. Either you make the cut, you don't make the cut. The practice is like a full-time job where you're training, practicing, doing
I could say
everything.
the
This
same
isn't
thing about
different for
esports.
esports.
Esports is
I
not
could say
like
the
that.
same
No,
thing
esports
about
Esports
it.
is not like that.
The guys at the top level have
Esports,
been
the players do not put in the
Ah,
amount of
come
effort
on.
that other.
That is
other
That's
football
just not
jack
true,
shit.
Maru.
You're
That's
That
telling
is
me
jack
whoever-
shit.
You're telling me whoever is the best esport player in the world has gone through the same endurance and training like a Cristiano Ronaldo or a Roger Federer has gone over a period of 30 years.
Yes, for sure.
No,
Yes,
over a period of 30 years, FIFA also didn't exist, man. That's today played in esports. So how is that even possible?
Yeah, I'm saying this generation equate a 25-year-old who's doing esports to a 25-year-old who's doing football. It takes the same amount of effort and commitment.
Krishna.
Because also,
No, go on. I agree with all of that. I'm not even saying no. My problem is not even calling it esports. But according to me personally, killing dragons is not a sport virtually.
I
Yeah,
mean,
It's not a sport.
again. Mazhar,
It's a
looking at it
game.
in a, it's that's very neat. That's a very niche way to look at it.
It is
He's-
not.
I
Okay,
mean,
what-
people could
I'll tell you,
argue
I'll
that
tell you,
like
no, no.
getting like a
Get
little
like-
pool. Say go for it. Sorry.
So you could killing dragons now. That's just like that's a very petulant manner of looking at or saying it.
It is
Because
not.
we are-
It's
no,
the
no,
fact.
it is. No, I am good. Esports, the sport is playing the game, right? That now what the rules of the game define are different. One could be killing a dragon, one could be scoring more goals, one could be finishing first in a race.
We
I don't know. Also,
okay.
and,
Okay. My
and
I
again,
don't-
again,
okay,
again,
second.
one more. I have to address this one. All right. Malu said like if you could make it's coining, right? You're saying it's coining a word as a sport, right? Even if there were a sense of competition to writing, all right, it would not be judged based on time. It would be judged based on the creative aspects of what basically form writing. You're not going to say that okay, you wrote fast or you wrote jack shit in some.
No, so what you're saying, the reason I give that example is what you're saying, Gui, is someone, if there's a competition held of 100 people and one person, like obviously wins it because he writes the most word and his essay, whatever he writes, is the most creative and outstanding, that will be termed as a sport now.
No, because Gui is saying no, because the value of the word doesn't come from the physical aspect, it comes from the creativity of the work. So when we value writing, for example,
So then
we
that's
value-
the same thing with esports, right? When
It's
you're
the same
playing
thing with
esport, there's
esports then.
creativity involved, right? You're using your head to like
Yeah, but that's every
outsmart your
sport. I mean, that's every
opponent,
sport
right?
also. That's every sport.
That's-
I mean, I don't
Yeah,
understand.
so,
the
then,
contra-
so based on that logic, writing is also a
There's
sport
create-
then.
No, 1 minute.
Exactly.
No, no,
One
no,
minute.
no, no,
The purpose of you writing would be to write fast, or would it be to have an actually
No,
maybe
but that's what
solve a
Shubham's
purpose
trying
of
to
create.
say. But that's what
That is
Shubham's
what I'm trying to
saying.
say.
You can write
No,
the most
okay, let
words
me-
in 60 seconds, becomes a game. It becomes a sport. Then that's exactly what he's trying to say.
Yeah, it could be. It could be. I don't see the massive like value to gatekeeping the definition of a sport if it is something like that. Again, if there's viewership, if
Okay.
there's
1 second. I think we
One
are
is a
addressing the wrong issue
competitive.
here.
One is a competitive endeavor in terms of who wins. okay, based on a certain specific set of rules, that this is we defined this as a set of rules, okay, and other one is judging on the subjective creative aspect. So you can, and no, I don't think there is a point, like you can't say that writing would ever become a sport, okay, because it has different merit. Like what what you would compete based on would not be a set of rules, it would be on how the output is judged based on certain creative merit, as
Okay,
opposed to
let
a
me be
sport.
clear. Let me be clear. I am okay with the term of esports. I'm not. I think we're addressing the wrong issue here. I, according to me, because the official definition of sports, or not official, whatever, the one of the definitions of sports is sport is an activity involving physical exertion and skill, which I agree that happens in gaming as well. We ourselves have experienced it. I've played those Olympics games and I've got blisters on my hand because you have to keep pressing XO. So I understand all of that, and it is a physical exertion and skill in which an individual or team competes against another or others for entertainment. So fair enough. It's the perfect definition. So I understand the esport definition. You know, when what triggered me was when they consider esports athletes. That is my issue with it. Because you can be sitting in front of your computer eating Cheetos like one motherfucker, which is such a terrible lifestyle to have. When we talk about so much about like people dying at a young age, people eating the wrong things, the bad lifestyles that we have, you can be all of that, and then you don't want to have a role model of like someone who's just spending all day in front of a screen playing games.
So Mazhar, when you're comparing esports to a very narrow subset of sports. Shooting is a sport, archery is a sport, pool is a sport, billiards is a sport, darts is a sport. They drink beer and play darts. So my point is, when you compare these physical
Again, see, personally, I don't call darts a sport.
but I'm saying this is now just gate. So darts is technically considered a sport. It is considered a competitive sport. So like chess, I agree, is considered a competitive game. Darts is considered a competitive sport. So to Gui's point, when you start to do this like strong gatekeeping on the definition of physical exertion required, the barriers just start to break.
But
Because
Krishna, that's
who's
not my
maintaining this
thing.
definition? Who's maintaining this definition?
But come on, man, just think about it from a logical standpoint. You're getting into definitions and saying this, and you're trying to be very
No, I'm saying the
reasonable
definition is
about all of
valueless. I'm
this.
saying, why are we trying to even put it? Why?
I'm
How does
not.
it matter?
That's why
I guess.
I'm not talking about that. That's why I'm agreeing to the esports definition. That's why I said I'm okay with it being called esports. My problem is terming them as athletes. Call them professional gamers. There's a difference. I'm telling you why I'm saying athletes is because athletes are, whether we like it or not, athletes are role models for the future generations. Now, if you're telling me, yes, I agree. Like, yeah, you have had Inzamam, you've had Sehwag, and they are terrible role models as well in a lot of ways. But the true essence, you're basically putting a Michael Phelps at the same level as some guy who's sitting in the corner of Korea playing a game
But
on the
Mazhar,
same pedestal. Come on,
Mazhar,
man.
who are our role models? No, but think about this. Who are our role models? If I'm someone who wants to be a cricketer, my role model is Rahul Dravid. If I'm someone who wants to be a politician, my role model isn't Rahul Dravid. If I want to be an esports player, my role model is that kid in Korea who's playing video games. So role models are defined on what you want to do in life. They're not necessarily defined by broadly just because just broadly by an athlete, right? I mean, I don't understand why that person couldn't be a role model. In fact, to me, it is a role model because that guy is now doing a profession, making $50,000 a year, whereas 10 years ago it was not a profession, and he's been able to find a way to make that a profession that was not even a profession, 15 years ago.
Spreading such a wrong lifestyle, Krishna, and they'll all be stuck. Like, just we all crave that outdoor activity. Now you're talking about this moral stand and all, but give me your honest opinion. Like, I would hate my kids to be sitting at home playing 7 hours of games all day just because they'll make a professional career out of it. It sets such a wrong precedent in general, such a bad lifestyle to live.
I mean, 90% of the people who do jobs, Mazhar, are sitting in 90% of the day in front of their computers. At least if my kid is doing this, and there are lots of fit esports athletes, by the way. There are lots of fit esports also, by the way.
Show me.
Ninja.
Show me. Like,
Ninja is
Okay,
phenomenally
okay.
fit.
Tell me one thing.
PewDiePie
Tell me
is
one
also
thing.
pretty fit. I mean, I don't know. You're describing a very narrow subset of people when you define esports people who are unfit. That's not necessarily the case at all. And 90% of
So
jobs are just.
tell me one thing. FIFA is FIFA a game used in esports?
Yes, it would be considered. Yeah.
Is NBA a game used in esports? Is F1 a game used in esports?
All of them.
Okay.
I mean, all of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now say we spoke about Karim, we spoke about chess, we spoke about shooting, we spoke about darts. All of us agree that in these games or sports, whatever category you want to put it in, the player is physically holding either the dart or the coin or whatever. It's his personal skill through which he's hitting bullseye or checkmating his opponent or whatever it is. Now in esports, of course it is skill. I'm not saying it's no skill. It is skill. It is practice. But then again, you're controlling, like for example, in FIFA, if I'm playing with a Ronaldo or a Messi versus someone else who's perhaps not playing with a Ronaldo or Messi, or in, I don't know, like in tennis, if I'm playing with a Djokovic who's perhaps at his best right now as compared to some other player who's not at his best. So it's not just my skill. It is also a computer that is aiding me in beating my competition. Are you guys understanding what I'm trying
Yeah,
to
the
say?
mods basically. Shubham's trying to
is
say
it
that
clear
there are
enough?
certain
It's
mods
not just my
that
skill,
change the
it
game.
is also the computer generated performance that I am putting my skill to, and that's how I'm outwitting my opponent. So it's not just all me. So when it's not just all me, how can I be termed as the athlete or like whatever, like compare myself to another sport where it is all the athlete? That's what I'm trying to say.
So I think that's fair. And I think sometimes one of the issues that leads to this, I think, resistance to esports is the fact that it's digital. When you think about it, what is different about esports versus other sports is just the fact that technology is digital. Something like shooting and archery requires a phenomenal amount of equipment to make it go right. Even the tiniest little, I know when we saw that incident in the Olympics where the Spanish shooter like literally paused because there was something wrong with the other. I forgot which country he's from. So there's a phenomenal amount of equipment and technical equipment required to perform in a lot of sports. I would say cricket is actually requires a pretty amount of technical. I guess the only difference is that so I wouldn't say that everything is just the player, right? If
no, but bro, all those technical equipments are of the similar standard given to all the athletes.
So
here in esports, if say for example I'm playing with Man City or a Liverpool, which might be the best team right now on FIFA, as compared to someone else who's playing with the Barcelona, which is not the Barcelona of 2008 but the Barcelona of 2021, which is not the best team. So don't I already through the computer have an advantage over my opponent?
So
then how does that help?
So the confusion, Malu, you're saying we are comparing very casual gaming at the highest levels. The people aren't like, they are making use of these narrow differences. You're talking about like casual gaming. Yes, if I play you and you're West Ham and I'm Man United, of course, there's a huge difference. But competitive gaming is played at a very, very high level to which the teams are at relatively similar levels from a technological standpoint. And there isn't an opportunity to just like randomize and select. There are rules put in place to kind of even the playing field as well. But sorry, Gui, I know you're going. Sorry.
Is there something stopping the two players from taking the Liverpool current squad and playing against each other? I'm not sure about the rules.
Even I'm not sure.
But
if they are allowed
I'd
to,
be,
then I
I'd
think
be
it's fair.
extremely surprised that you could, if you couldn't, right? And now coming to like Maru's point, saying that there is some digital technology involved, right? Uh, because okay, you're holding a controller, you're not holding, say, the chess piece, you're not holding the bow or the arrow. But what about reading the skill which is required to do all of those things, which makes your digital player do whatever it is the digital player does? Now I understand you could be in a Tekken game and say that okay, one player is playing with martial law, other players playing with king or whoever it is, all right, and those two are different. Now how do you maximize their attributes is all on the player, right? Now it requires that amount of skill to understand what you could do best, what kind of moves you could do best in a racing game or in a fighting game. I
agree with what you're saying.
hazy.
Skill is
Super
required.
hazy.
That's what I told Krishnan also, that it is the skill of the esports player or whoever the gamer, but it is not just like entirely up to him. If he's already playing with a player which is better than his competitor's player, so he already has that advantage given to him via the computer. It's not all the player.
I don't
While
think
in sports, it's all the
I've never
player.
seen an I've never seen a esports, like I have watched, I think probably more than the rest of
I was
us.
going to say, you said two
Yeah.
people. I don't think anyone knew who the hell you were talking about when you said those
Sorry,
two
my
character
bad.
names.
But point being that I've never seen a game be rigged in, okay, not rigged, but made uneven in the fashion that you can't select a player, or you will be put on different level, not on level playing fields, in the sense that you get a weaker team, you get a stronger team, or any randomization, which is again in an official tournament. Like, okay, you could play a casual tournament where you say, let's do randomized teams, and then people get whatever they do. But again, that's not professional gaming, that's not esports, that's just casual gaming. There is a difference, right? You could play one man down in your building also when you're playing football. There are those uneven playing fields which form in every sport, game, whatever. But again, now coming to the role model point and to the lifestyle point, I think it's a professional health hazard which every profession has. All right, what certain professions would enable you to do. Mazhar, you and I worked in a consulting firm, right? We were there for 12 hours a day. There is a health hazard of working there also. And to be honest, we were deeply, I think much more than I am currently, or still are, involved in physical activity, stroke sports. But when we were there for 12 hours, sitting on a chair, looking down, here, left, right, not in a good position. Similarly, we were not eating the best things, and also coming to like
It's just
making,
like,
also
I
making someone
understand all of that, but
about making someone a role model. There are some of the players who play the physical sports, okay, are probably the worst possible role models you would like ask a
agreed.
kid
That's
to
why
follow.
it was a terrible
It's
example to
it's
use.
a
But what?
subset. It's all a subset.
Yeah, of course. But that way, everything is relative, right? You're talking about everything being subjective and relative. You're taking this high moral stand here, and
It's
all of
not
these
It's not
things.
a high
but
model. I just don't understand why an esports athlete can't be a role model. If
No,
someone's very
it's not. It's not. I'm not even saying that they can't
and
be
I
a role
and I
model.
honestly don't think they are promoting anything. I have never come
No, that's what
across
I'm
and
saying. My problem is not even the term esports. I just like when they decide to like put it in the Olympics, I just can't I can't fathom that. I
okay, I
just can't.
understand.
Like
I
the
understand.
amount of effort and we know the effort that these athletes go through, so many rounds of qualification, this and that. And now you'll tell me, oh, there are so many competitive gaming things as well and all of that. Not
No, okay,
everyone
I am
has
not. I am
access to video gaming across this globe. Look at Africa.
Not
Look at
everyone has
all of
access
these
to
things
golf,
as well.
Mazhar. This is bad. You're giving bad
Krishnan, I
examples.
agree. Krishnan, I agree. I'm not saying no, but I just feel like at the end of the day, you're giving 8 medals at the Asian Games to gamers. I just can't. I personally cannot accept that and live with
So
that. Like,
in my opinion, in say for Dota 2, I think the
have it
level.
separately. Why are you trying to integrate it?
No,
Have esports as
I can agree.
esports.
I think
I
integration
don't
into
want to integrate it. That's my only thing.
that I understand. And integration into Olympics is a complicated thing because Olympics is generally been a historically gatekeeping community of like what, and I agree with that. I honestly don't even have as much of an issue with of including it in the Olympics. My point is just valuing the effort it takes to be really good at it. I would
Oh,
say
no.
becoming the best Dota player in the world, let's say a gold medal Dota player in the world, is as hard as winning. I don't know.
No, Krishnan, that I agree. And I'm sure Shubham will agree as well. Yeah, to just to be a professional esports player is also hard. I'm not saying no. But just why their efforts in trying to merge it and push it along with professional, like
Does
physical
esports have a governing
athletes,
body?
just doesn't work.
money.
Yeah, they do
It's
have.
just
Yeah,
money.
that's the thing.
You have to
That's
do
the
it
problem.
at some point.
They
At some
turned
point, you
it.
have to at some point you have to cash in on what is a market, right? If there is
That's what they are doing.
such a
That's what the esports
which
community. I'm not against the esports community. I'm against all of those people who are pushing this agenda for money. This greed comes in, and I told Shubham last episode as well. Everything revolves around money. This money is going to make us go mad as well, man. At this rate, I'm serious. Like, it's ridiculous.
And the one thing I do want to push back on, I think sometimes there's this assumption in esports that like, oh, I can be really, really good at esports. I think I think one of the things that you were saying, like saying the challenge with your children wanting to be esports players is the barrier to entry is actually reasonably low, right? Especially with computer games, mobile games. I mean, even in low-income communities, a lot of people just have mobile phones at this point, right? It's pretty a prevalent practice at this point. The barrier to entry is pretty low. So to actually become a player who sustains your life of esports, that is really, really, really hard. So the point being that if you're someone who's just playing every Sunday and playing FIFA every Sunday, don't get into the false assumption of I can be a professional FIFA player and sustain my life off this. That's not the level of commitment that you require. And that's the challenge which you might have with your children, which I'm sure a lot of parents face right now, where their kids are like, you haven't seen how I kicked I kicked Mazza's ass last weekend at FIFA. I haven't, but when I come back to Bombay. But something
I'm
like
not
that.
in Bombay, bro. What are you even
I know,
talking about?
whenever we next play FIFA. And confusing that for thinking that's equivalent to being equivalent to me saying that I can make it in esports. And I think what's challenging about it also is it's still relatively newer, so there isn't a structure to necessarily. There is a structure, but they're still building it out to sort of formalize it right now.
I love how we're all pushing back against the points we came so strongly in. That's why I love this. I love doing this podcast, man. So now I'm going to push back on what you said, Krishnan. This happens even people who like play football every day for their schools, universities, don't be of the false assumption that you're going to make it in life. So it's the same thing again, man.
No, it's very, very true. It's very true. I think it's just sometimes that see, when we play football, right, we have almost line of sight to people. Like I get my ass kicked when I play football, right? Like I'm like visually seeing it. Whereas sometimes with esports, there's almost like no line of sight to maybe a higher level talent sometimes that you don't
I
realize.
would disagree with that, Krishnan, because like if you play online, after a point, if you keep losing games, you do realize that, hey man, I need to up my game, otherwise I'm just going to get my ass whooped. And then sometimes it's like you're playing certain nationalities and then you're like, oh, I'm ready to get beaten. So I guess there's that argument as well. But
That's fair.
okay, so before we move on to the quiz, obviously we can't end on this note. I need some closing statements from you guys on what your final opinion is basis this, or not necessarily, and going enough of the high moral ground here. Just yes or no, simple. And so I'll start off with Shubham, but also do mention the esports that you like, whether watching or playing, whatever it may be. Shubham.
So yeah, the esport that I like is FIFA. It's always been FIFA. And closing statements, I still don't think esport is a sport. I think it's a game. Again, all the people who participate in esports definitely respect their work ethic, respect the skill, all of that jazz, great. But for me, it is a game, and that's how I see it, and that's how I believe it's at least going to be for me. And those are my closing statements on esports, on e-games.
Gui?
So again, esports, perfect. I don't mind the terminology, but with on the athlete side, I think to just stick to professional gamer. Like it's athlete is okay. I still like there is a very big, gap in the terms of what you do to train, right? So yes, professional. You are a professional at whatever you do now. If you want to bunch it in this word, that word, wherever you want to do it. But yes, like I do not mind the terminology esports at all. Like it's perfectly reasonable. I think even if it's a marketing gimmick, do it.
Krishnan, let's go.
Bro, now I feel like I'm sucking up to Gui because everything I was going to say was basically going to sound exactly what Gui said. I'm not too stressed out about how it's termed. I did like the point, Mazhar, you made about comparing athlete to gamer. I think that term athlete has something associated with it, which I don't think a professional gamer necessarily has. But I'm sort of excited to see this new opportunity for people to kind of grow into. I think this opportunity didn't exist for us, for people who were 30 years old when we were growing up. And I think it's just a new opportunity for people that is pretty cool, and it seems to be continuing to grow. I think like a lot of us will likely say my esport of choice is also FIFA. A lot of us, Mazhar, we've played a bunch just growing up with. I mean, that was kind of what we did at sleepovers, was just like playing FIFA endlessly through the night. So definitely FIFA is the esport of choice.
Gui, you forgot to mention your sport. Yeah.
So
for it.
like my friends and I have somehow managed to dial it down with FIFA. Because it is like okay, like we don't have enough time, right? But we switched to playing Call of Duty on our cell phones. And okay, we played a lot of it. I think when COVID first hit, I played so much of it. Even whatever the legendary category on Call of Duty or whatever it is, it was just thoroughly enjoyable. And we still sometimes do it. Like when everyone's free, we are even sometimes when we're in the same space, same physical space, and we do land up playing a game just because for old time's sake. But yes, it is
See,
immense. Trust me, get
this
into it.
this is the problem. This is the problem with our generation. This is what I'm saying.
Rubbish.
Sitting in the
That's
same
crazy,
place and
like
on the
how
phone.
you're
Yeah.
talking about the generation. Like initially, when I myself while doing research came across the fact that it will very soon become the second most viewed competitive
Sport,
activity.
yeah.
Competitive activity, not sport. after after whichever one was the first man. But that's just bonkers, right? It just goes to show like
Well
how
played,
traditional
Shubham.
sport is perhaps evolving and changing, and this is the new age games or activities that people would like, and perhaps in the future, and especially with so much money being put into the system, it's just going to grow that much more.
And it a little bit goes back to Malu. Like there's literally there's close to no barrier for entry, right? Anyone can watch it. Anyone can enjoy it anywhere. Like it's not like I mean, obviously it's more popular in Asia Pacific, but really anyone anywhere in the world can watch it. So it's really easy to sort of get into it. So it's almost like, you don't really, I mean, not that many people even go to live tournaments, right? I mean, generally there are big live tournaments, but it probably pales in comparison to, let's say, like football viewership in stadiums live, right? But it's so easy to view it online, right? It's so easy to access it. If as long as you have access to a computer and an internet, even if you don't own one, maybe a web cafe or something, just globally, I can't imagine how it wouldn't grow massively. Again, I don't think,
Let's
similar to the
face it.
Jake Paul thing, I don't know if we'll watch too much, but it'll exist.
No, man. Esports, don't even talk about the two in the same bracket. I respect esports way more than that bullshit. Anyway, but yeah, my opinion, I'm actually torn now, but but for me, I don't have a problem with the term esports like Gui and you, Krishnan, mentioned. Again, for me, the athlete thing really hurt because we ourselves have played at some competitive level in sports, and we know how much we've put in and not gotten anywhere with it. So I think it's more like sour grapes in a lot of ways. If I'm being completely honest, maybe that way, because we didn't make it in that way. We're obviously not good at gaming because we don't play enough either.
Zagreb sounds like a good name for a game, though, Amas. There might be some potential there. Zagreb sounds
Rishi, we're gonna ask Rishi to make a game. Rishi, please. But yeah, but for me, again, like Gui said, wow, we're all going with Gui's opinion here. But yeah, so my problem is not with the term. I would like to keep it, like I said, right? In China, it translates directly as electronic gaming. Keep it. Even, for me, the problem is, how can you call League of Legends and Dota a sport? Call it a game. If you're talking about FIFA, I would still call it an esport.
Esport. They're
But
not
that's the
calling
thing.
it
No,
a
no,
game
that's what I'm
or a
saying.
sport,
Esport
sorry.
also, but it's not, for me, an esport would be directly FIFA, Madden, like I explained already, NBA 2K. For me, those would be esports. The others are e-games.
I'm telling you now,
Anyway,
let's just settle with competitive activity. Let's just settle with that.
yeah,
I-
professional
All of
us will be on
gaming
the
is a
same
good
page.
term.
All of us
I'm
will
gonna
settle.
leave-
Professional gaming is a good
I'm-
term, but
but that's something which is used now. Professional gaming is just too long a word. But anyway, just
pro
just to
gaming,
close-
bro.
हाँ चलिए I don't care if you just call it Tekken and FIFA. I don't give two shits. But again, just because now you mentioned that one point where you're okay.
You know, in
with-
India, if it's launched, it will be called, instead of pro gaming, it will be game ka ustad.
Yeah. I love it. It has a nice ring to it. It'll do well.
gaming ka bacha.
Shubham, we're going to set up an esports business in India now.
Done.
Powered by All About Sports. Let's do it.
Yes.
Let's try and see if we can get Manik Chand also on this one as well. Ideally.
Pan Parak. But
Whatever, any of them.
the-
Vimal. Why not Vimal? We'll get Ajay Devgan and Shah Rukh Khan for free.
no, anyway,
And
my point.
Shubham's happy when he heard Shah Rukh Khan. So
Just a
Yeah,
question
sorry,
I'd
bro.
like to leave with everyone, and I'd be super happy if anyone wants to take it now or later. Put it down in the comments, whatever. But like, what is the difference between playing Madden and Tekken? Like, why would you
Yeah,
say
good
esport for
point.
one?
Fair
It's
enough.
okay.
No. That's why
Call
I
it
don't have a
competitive
problem with calling
activity
it.
all across the board. I am down.
Gooey, no. For me, on the face of things, when I see sports, I'm thinking there's like esports, and then I'm like I said, that's why I clarified the definition at the start, because many people are confused. I don't have, like I said, I don't have a problem with the term, but I just mentally have I would associate an esport being FIFA, being NBA 2K, being Madden, so on and so forth. That's the only thing. I don't care otherwise. My favorite esport, NBA 2K, man. It's just, I love that my player mode. It's got to be that personally. Just love that you create your own player. They have a nice story around it. So you've gone through that struggle and made it finally into the big leagues. Then you get drafted. You have an NBA showcase event as well in it. And I love how the NBA is integrated 2K and esports into their system. So I must give a shout out there. In general, the NBA is doing a lot of fantastic things in general, diversifying, speaking up on societal issues as well. So yeah, now finally let's get back to the quiz. Not going to take too long with this one. um you know the drill. I'm the quiz master this time, so I'll just be asking
You know the drill. We
Shubham,
ask a bunch of
Gui.
questions. Rishabh gets the least amount of points, and then we go for the day.
And he never completes his challenge.
Yeah. because
Now
of
I
you
have the video
Shubham's-
ready. I bought
because of you Shubham's punishment is also pending.
No, guys, I
Bro,
got a
season 2 will
selfie
get
stick.
over. We will start season 3 and his challenge will still be pending.
I got a selfie stick just for this. I now have a selfie stick and a stand thing for this.
Okay, so guys, let's get started. I won't waste any more time. um Let me pull up the questions. Yeah, so I'm just going to, I don't know how much you guys know, but I'm assuming you all will know about some of the popular teams in esports. If you don't, then then I'm gonna just switch over to talking about other
I
sport
tell you what,
questions
this
instead.
quiz now, let's just keep it a friendly quiz, no points. It's been a while since we've had any quizzes, so let's get in the groove of things again. This
Okay,
should be a
let's
warm-up
do one
quiz.
thing. So
Beautiful.
I'll do that. So this team is the third most watched team in the esports world, and I'll give you all options. So I'll give you 3 options, and then you can just pick any. But this one will only go to one person, obviously. And since Krishnan's always terrible, Krishnan is going to get this one. So Krishnan, is it Eminem Gaming? Is it Team Liquid? Or is it Team Fnatic?
Which is the third highest you're saying, right?
Yes. In the world.
Go Team Eminem. I think I saw Team Liquid is pretty high. I don't know. Team Eminem?
No, sorry. It's Team Fnatic. Team Fnatic are the third most watched team in the world. The next one. This one is for you, Shubham. Actually, this one's for anyone because I think this is hard in general. Forbes released a list on the valuation of the esports industry, e-gaming, whatever you want to call it. I just love bringing it up. Yeah, so the esports industry, what is that value? Whoever can go first and gets it right gets the points. Yeah, close. Oh, okay. Let's do closest then. Closest to wins. So, okay, Shubham.
Forbes valuation of the esports gaming industry.
Yes. And you can give it to me in dollars.
$1.2 billion.
Okay. Gui.
$2.1 billion.
And Krishna.
I'm actually going to say $4 billion.
Okay. It's Gui wins this. It's $2.6 billion. Not bad, Gui. Not bad.
Very
Good
nice,
estimation.
Gui.
Yeah, pretty good. Even honestly, I was more along Shubham's lines. I thought it was like somewhere around 1.5 myself. The next question is, what is the global esports audience? And this is also as per Forbes, just telling you. So, like, according to them, they've stated a number. I'll just give you some hint. It's in the hundreds of millions. I'm going to start with GUI this time. GUI.
780 million.
Okay. Krishnan.
This is what, in a year? This is in a year?
Global esports audience currently now in.
I'll say viewership maybe 500 million.
Okay. And
600.
Shubham. Krishnan wins this one. It's 443 million.
Is this worth 433 million points also potentially?
This is a friendly one, so bad luck anyway. The League of Legends World's Finals in 2019 was the most watched esports event ever. If you guess how many viewers watched this globally, who tuned into the League of Legends Finals, World Finals. Krishnan, I'm going to start with you.
I'll say 1.2 million.
I
Globally,
will say
Krishnan, in
I will say 9
2019,
million.
the World's Finals.
9 million.
7.8 million.
100 million people watched League of Legends.
Hey bro, then how are the
worldwide.
viewers only 500 million? Sorry.
There we go. 100 million people watched the League of Legends final in 2019. I was shocked when I heard that. I was like, man, this is why they called it esports. Honestly, the viewership is ridiculous.
Mazhar was late to this podcast meet only because he took like a 5-minute breather from reading the stat. He's like, what the hell? 100 million people.
It's ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous. Okay, the last question. This is a question on Fnatic specifically. Team Fnatic. I'm not expecting you to know this, but this is just a fun fact for everyone. Just guess how much they raised through an internal round of funding before they launched their crowdsourcing platform, which has been generating bucket loads of money. So just guess what was their first round of funding that they raised before they launched their
50 million.
crowdfunding platform. Sorry?
50 million.
Okay. GUI?
First ever round of funding they launched.
First ever round of funding.
50 million.
20 million. Modest.
And Krishnan?
Same, I think like 35 million.
$10 million into an industry that at the time 17 years ago had nothing. No one knew where it was going. $10 million. Shubham, I'm telling you all about sports gaming. Let's just start it. We'll spend 17 hours playing every day. Make a team.
We should.
India's first ever team across 3 different regions. There you go. So left you with some fun facts about fantasy gaming. Oh, sorry, not fantasy gaming. I'm mixing up.
Mazhar is demoting them more and more through this episode.
I'm just like losing track here now. I'm too old fashioned now. I need to get used to the Gen Z and get started with this. I'm going to sit and start playing FIFA again, man. I guess that's the next route.
Bro,
for me to follow.
recently I started playing FIFA again. After a point, my eyes start watering. I've become too old for FIFA. I feel it.
I can't, man. I can't play more than 2 games of FIFA. I can't. I just get bored.
Yeah.
I get
Yeah,
bored.
see-
I get frustrated. I'm like, it's the same thing happening again and again. Same
I
thing
can't,
happening again and again. but anyway, so quite clearly you saw I have had a very strong opinion about it. My co-hosts have managed to change my opinion in some way and made me more liberal about my thought process around esports. And I've learned a lot as well. I'll be very honest. Not going to deny that. Somehow we need to break this mold of Krishnan and GUI being together, Shubham. We'll crack them eventually.
We'll
crack
keep this
them
alliance
eventually.
strong, baby.
Yeah, the Arsenal fans now, there's no rationality in them anyway. So never mind. Gui is just on mute and going on. I love it. I love it. Anyway, thanks, guys. Thank you so much. Great episode. And I hope for all the viewers who tuned in, you learned something. And also do share your thoughts, because this is a highly contentious topic. We're never going to have like any right or wrongs in terms of how we perceive the sport. But the facts are that there are 8 gold medals at the Asian Games for e-gaming. So, I mean, it is moving in that direction. Apparently, certain organizations have also already approved esports as a sport. So whether we like it or not, it's happening. So either accept it and move on with the times, but do share your thoughts on whether you believe esports are sports and whether you think esports players should be termed as athletes. And yeah, till then, we'll be back with a new episode next week again. Stay safe, take care, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
If you like this episode, make sure to leave a like and share it with anyone else who might be interested. You can also subscribe on any social media platform that you prefer, and all our links are in the bio. We also have a website with all our episodes as well as blogs and a whole lot of other sports content, so make sure to check that out as well.